Konosuba is unironically one of my favorite anime. I know, you thought I was all about the classics, the blood, the gore, the deep existential thought-provoking works that, when over, make you sit back and go, wow. And you're not wrong, but I am a complex individual, sir or madam or Saddam. Often people with enough narcissism to get in front of a camera and talk about things believing anyone would care tend to create a simplistic persona for smooth-brained peons to latch onto to keep that cash flow churning. But you watch Bonsai Pop, my friend, your brain is clearly wrinklier than an old man's cold nuts. Also, YouTube can keep their pathetic pennies, alright? No, today, I am here to announce myself as a man of culture and purposefully lose your meager shred of respect because I've probably watched Konosuba at least 30 times. I own all the available light novels, including the spin-offs, cause, well, suppose I was raised wrong. Regardless, I work hard enough. Anime, manga, and light novels, they're my job. Sometimes I need to relax. But when what you used to do to relax becomes your job, you need to find a way to separate the two. Hence, trash anime, ecchi, the good goods, and I've seen it all of it. You got these posers out here trying to flex degenerate.
Hentai too.
I invented degenerate, okay? I am the foremost degenerate of the YouTubes, the dark god of trash reborn. Tremble before my used pantsu collection. Anyway, widely touted as the It's Always Sunny of anime.
Frank, we are no longer in relaxing mode. We are now in survival mode.
Will you stop being so dramatic? Wait a minute. Where's the rum ham? Rum ham!
Konosuba is the story of 4 trash characters being trash and barely scraping through every hurdle by the skin of their teeth while they make life difficult for everybody around them, including themselves. It's funny, it's charming, it's incredibly well animated, and it's voice acting. My friends, is S tier. It's also the perfect anime for our new occasional side series, Trash Break. Welcome to episode 1. I'm Mike. This is Konosuba. Let's get into it. I'd like to say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and hope that you can become one too. For just $1 a month, you get access right into our community. It is easily the best on the web, and I'm not just saying that. And as the tiers go up, you get more and more goodies from yours truly. I hope that you check it out. On with the show. Spoiler warnings, I'm not going to be going super into depth into every plot point of Konosuba, but, you know, if you want to get it fresh, get it fresh. It is a comedy show, so, you know, it's kind of hard to spoil anyway, but just putting it out there. So first things first, Konosuba is an Isekai, and if you don't know what that is, good for you. I don't know what you're doing here. These days you can't spit without hitting 7 isekai that are virtually indistinguishable from one another. Let me give you the gist. Generally, isekai, Japanese for another world, starts out with a pathetic main character in real-world Japan. This person is usually one or a mixture of 3 things: a virgin, a shut-in, no-job gamer, often referred to as a hikikomori, or an overworked salary person with no social life. Hikikomori can also be swapped out for NEET, which means not employed in education or training, aka a bum. These schmucks generally die 9 times out of 10 via a face-to-face meeting with Truck-kun, and are then transported to a fantasy world through reincarnation or divine intervention with some kind of superpower or over-the-top skill set, making them more or less unbeatable. More often than not, these protags find themselves with a harem of fantasy characters across multiple Japanese fetish types, and hijinks ensue. Generally, these worlds are based off of MMO or JRPG mechanics, but they can simply be a generic fantasy world as well. And Konosuba is almost exactly that. Almost. See, at this point, Isekai is basically nothing more than a meme.
You serious?
And Konosuba is arguably the first series to take that to its zenith. It's not trying to be good in the traditional sense, rather it takes all of the isekai tropes, turns them upside down, dunks it in stupid sauce, and then slathers it all over its scummy but sympathetic main character, Sato Kazuma. Kazuma, of course, is a hikikomori gamer NEET who died, and when the anime starts, it comes off very serious. Kazuma dives in front of Truck-kun to save a classmate, which I say in quotations because he doesn't really go to school, on his way home from the local game store. When faced with the goddess of premature Japanese death, Aqua, he asks if the girl he tried to save is okay, hoping his last moments were honorable ones. He is relieved to find out that she's healing, but then is slapped with the fact that she would have been fine if he hadn't intervened at all. This is almost a take-for-take Yusuke and Botan conversation. And then of course, Konosuba shows its true colors. Because not only would the girl have been fine, but Truck-kun wasn't even a truck. It was a tiny tractor. Did it run over Kazuma? No! He blacked out, pissed himself in fear, and then died of a heart attack in the hospital a while later while the doctors just laughed at him. All of this information is being given by Aqua, by the way, who is ridiculing him, and then just for a little splash of special sauce, she adds in that his parents just showed up at the ER and also are laughing at this pee pants corpse. And guys, these are our main characters, Dead Boy Pissy Pants and a goddess who seriously can't read the room. But Kazuma isn't just a coward, he's also a vindictive baby, and it turns out that heaven is basically a place where your junk doesn't work and you just sit in the sun all day talking about the weather. So instead of accepting an eternity of middle-aged white people brunches, Kazuma decides to go to a world threatened by the Demon King wielding an OP power of his choosing in order to save said world. And of course, if he does this, he gets any wish that he wants. So while he's choosing his power, Aqua's just sitting there, just eating chips, kind of being a turd. So as revenge for her flippin' attitude, he decides to take her as his OP weapon out of pure spite, which proceeds to bite him in the ass forever. Because despite being a babe, poor Aqua definitely has maybe a chromosome or two loose. For some, she is the top tier waifu. But I mean, have you seen the Axel sect? We don't take those people seriously here. And for Kazuma's many, many deep and sad personality flaws, he's actually pretty sharp. Like, not arch wizard level, but compared to his numbnuts divine leech, he's Albert freaking Einstein. So now of course the two find themselves in the beginner adventure town of Axel, which is a place full of low-level lazy scrubs content with sitting on their asses the second they make a decent buck. People in this world have stats like your typical Dragon Quest inspired JRPG, but they also do hunting and gathering quests through the guild, which is a lot more like Monster Hunter. However, unlike either of these games, Kazuma isn't a hunter or a chosen one. Instead, thanks to his decision to bring along Aqua rather than a talent or item or something useful, he's just a regular broke Japanese dude stuck in a world full of monsters with a completely incompetent idiot glued to his side. And the worst part is that Aqua could be useful, but she's just not, simply because of her bad personality. And much to the chagrin of Kazuma, bringing Aqua to the mortal plane rid her of most of her more omnipotent abilities, but she's still maxed out as far as her stats go. However, because she's a goddess and she's damn proud of it, she wants to be an archpriest, basically a healer and buffer, and then proceeds to put all of her many skill points into party tricks. Now this is joked about in the anime, but the more in-depth light novels, it's shown that she literally put all of her skill points into party tricks. She also refuses to do them for money because they're art. She's useless. Now Kazuma, on the other hand, has high intelligence and an insane luck stat, but everything else is totally normal. Like, not even adventurer normal, like just a guy off the street normal. And the guildmaid, who is already horrified at the pair from the get-go, basically tells Kazuma that he should seek out being a merchant, but he instead goes for adventurer class in the hopes that it'll be easy for him to level up. Weakest class, lowest skill ceiling. And look, at this point, it should be obvious that Konosuba is a parody, not just of Isekai, but kind of anime itself. It takes all these tropes and really puts them on their head and all of the fantasy and rips it out from under Kazuma's feet. He can't make a decent wage, he can't defeat monsters, which makes this world that he's in infinitely more dangerous for him. The irony is, he would be better off back in Japan. And again, he's not an idiot, so when he realizes this, his hopes of being an adventurer in this awesome life in this new world becomes more or less a money-making scheme, kind of akin to like Ed, Edd and Eddy. And Kazuma is naturally lazy all the time, but when he does become motivated, Aqua, in her uselessness, ruins his attempts to better himself. But I guess you could call that divine intervention. And it's either that or these attempts come so close to killing Kazuma that he reverts back into his shell. He quickly gives up on being the one to destroy the Demon King. Now, it's a mission to become a hikikomori once again, but that's gonna take some cash. Time to get some new party members who can actually do something.
Konosuba.
Hey guys, I got a little bit of a weird announcement to make. Sorry to interrupt the video. Now, I did put this in our community tab. We actually got a lot of support. It was very cool, but we have partnered with, of all companies, G Fuel. I know it seems strange. Most people know how picky and selective we are when it comes to brand deals or, you know, sponsorships, anything like that. We are extremely picky. It's important to us to make sure that we're working with people that we trust and that are, you know, good for the community, etc. So when G Fuel got a hold of us, or when they reached out to us, you know, we just laughed. Tyler didn't even want to answer him, but I thought it would be funny for a meme. I had all intentions of going into that meeting and just being like, yeah, we're just like, this is awful, we're not interested. But what it turned out, like, basically we got a hold of them and I was like, look, like, I don't want to work for a company that is supporting problematic content creators. And they were like, we dumped all those guys, like that. We're actively trying to change that and really take a good turn. And that's part of the reason that we're reaching out to you. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to sell energy drinks to our viewers because energy drinks are shitty and bad for you. And they were like, well, how about hydration? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we have this new hydration formula stuff, or, well, it's not new, it's always been around, but nobody buys it because nobody talks about it. And I was like, oh, well, that's, you know, that's intriguing. And they were like, all right, well, we'll send you some over and stuff like that. And they did, and I tried it, and it's good. What can I say? I mean, it's just like taking a multivitamin and getting hydrated at the same time. So if this is something you're interested in, if you've wanted to help out the channel but didn't really know how or didn't know when was a good time, buying G Fuel helps us maintain our contract. This is like a trial period, and as you've probably noticed, they've reached out to other anime YouTubers as well. For us, for the little guy, it's really important for us to maintain that contract, so this is the best way to do it. You can follow our link, it's going to be in the description, code BPOPT. This first introduction of it to you guys, I wanted to make sure that I did it legitimate and, you know, from the heart, and just explain to you why this is happening. And it is very good for us. It's helping us out quite a bit. So we get to have fun with this and create memes and memories together. So look forward to that. Anyway, thank you so much for hearing me out. Let's get back to it.
First to get on board is Arch Wizard and foremost genius of the Crimson Magic Clan, wielding the most powerful offensive magic, Explosion, Megumin. A very diminutive 13-year-old from the Crimson Magic Clan, who we later find out are descendants of a group of people who were genetically modified by someone Aqua sent to this world a long time ago. And yes, she has been causing problems for a long time. Thanks to this crazy Japanese dude's intervention, the Crimson Magic Clan are super overtly Sentai. The most important part of battle, obviously, being their cool introductions and poses. And Megumin is the most powerful archwizard of her generation and possibly of the entire clan, besides maybe her sister Komoko. But she's also a little nuts. She believes that in her previous life she was the goddess of destruction, but this is Konosuba. Obviously there's going to be caveats. Explosion is certainly the most powerful of offensive spells, but being so, it requires a ridiculous amount of MP. Most archwizards can't even cast it at all. It's also pointlessly destructive. Advanced magic can match its power, but just not its range. Because of this, Explosion is considered a gimmick and extensive overkill. Also, because it costs 50 skill points, which is the most expensive skill of any class. As far as the Crimson Magic Clan is concerned, it is a complete waste. Only immortal beings like liches, who amass skill points forever and ever, bother to take it after they've exhausted literally everything else. It's also the only spell that Megumin knows, and she refuses to learn anything else except things to make her explosions better. And of course, because it wouldn't be Konosuba without a little poop cherry on top. Due to the MP cost, Megumin can only use Explosion once a day and then becomes paralyzed afterwards. She is a true one-pump chump. In other words, she's useless. Kazuma immediately tries to ditch her. However, because this is Konosuba, at that point she is covered in icky sticky goo from being eaten by a frog and uses that to make Kazuma look like a degenerate, which he is, essentially blackmailing him into keeping her on the team. Megumin is a fan favorite and quickly turns 14, the marriage age in Konosuba's world, so let's just get this over with. Explosion is 100% a Kami reference, okay? Like Megumin says, if she doesn't let off one explosion a day, she'll explode herself. She's exhausted after she does it. She fetishizes it. Yes, it took me a little while to catch on to that, but enjoy not being able to unsee it. You're welcome. And speaking of insatiable woman, we have Darkness, my spirit animal and possibly the best character ever conceived in the history of anime, an 18-year-old super babe crusader, which is yet again another advanced class. However, after experiencing Megumin, the second Darkness shows up, Kazuma is immediately suspicious of another powerful person trying to join his team. And rightfully so, as Darkness is, well, Well, she's a little touched. And is as overtly desperate as Megumin was. Like Megumin, she has hyper-focused her skills, but instead of magic, which she can't do at all, her skills went only into defense. And as a crusader, her job is attack tank. She's supposed to draw aggro and hold off attacks with high defense to allow, say, an adventurer to snipe with arrows or an archwizard to get a spell off. And sure, she carries a great sword, but if you were standing in front of her, she couldn't hit you with it if she tried because she has 0 sword skills. She's all defense. And this is simply so she can take as much punishment as possible because she is a hopelessly perverted masochist. Unlike Megumin, who at least has brains thanks to her genetics, Darkness is completely incorrigible. She will do whatever it takes to get captured, beaten, tortured, and more. She definitely wants more. So much more. Ironically, she's so aggressive about being beaten and captured, even evil creatures try to avoid her in case their image is destroyed by her out loud fantasizing. There's one point in the light novels where she goes up against a supposedly extinct gender of orcs, and they literally walk away from her. Which is funny because the female orcs are so insatiable, they almost rape Kazuma to death, that Darkness reminded these male orcs of them, and literally they wouldn't fight her, they just left her alone. After reading 17 light novels, I can concisely say that out of everyone in the party, when it comes to combat, Darkness is by far the most useless. Anytime she shows a modicum of coolness, her personality just tanks it. That's a pun, but it's also magical. She does have her perks though, which we will get into later. So now what would be a seemingly perfect team, an advanced healer, a hyper-offensive destruction mage, an attack tank, and an all-arounder is just useless. 9 times out of 10, Aqua runs away, Darkness just stands there, and Megumin blows everything up like an experience vacuum while Kazuma tries not to die. Or Aqua's holy aura attracts multiple undead, she runs away, Darkness gets the snot beat out of her on purpose, and amongst her squeals of pleasure, Megumin blows everything up like an experience vacuum, and Kazuma actually dies. Aqua purifies every liquid she touches, ruining hot springs, tea, and potions alike. Megumin is constantly in trouble for either noise complaints or destroying the natural scenery, and Darkness is always trying to take on advanced quests in hopes that some evil tentacle monster will capture her and give us what we all want to see finally. And even Kazuma's multiple deaths are nullified thanks to Aqua's resurrection ability, which she blatantly abuses by browbeating her far more competent junior goddess, Eris. But rather than this being like a traumatizing horror like in ReZero, death doesn't seem to bother Kazuma. Instead, he usually finds himself pondering over whether he even wants to go back and deal with his problem children. Now the thing is, Kazuma is supposed to be lucky, so what is the deal with this end of the stick life he has? Well, it turns out that everyone else in his party is so luckless, and Aqua is so stupid, that it drags down all of Kazuma's good points. Even when he gets a boon, one of his companions always screws it up. For instance, Megumin's explosion addiction. For a while, she and Kazuma go out together daily to hit this crumbling castle with explosion, and Kazuma of course only comes to give Megumin a piggyback ride home afterwards, but for him, it's his way of dealing with the inherent baseline problem of having Megumin around at all. However, it turns out that this castle is occupied by a general of the Demon Lord who's now pissed that someone came around hitting his castle with explosives every day and kindly comes to ask whoever is doing it to stop. But just because Megumin is smart doesn't mean she isn't crazy, so afterwards she tricks Aqua, who is an idiot, to bring her out instead of Kazuma because the pleasure of blowing up a structure is something one simply can't deny themselves after having experienced it. And as you might guess, this leads to conflict. Conflict which is resolved by Aqua finally being useful and using her water magic to destroy the general, which also destroys most of the town, leaving them in debt rather than making them rich. This incident also rears its ugly head much later in the story as well. And here we have the Konosuba loop. Really, no matter what these four do, they end up either creating their own problems or somehow making things worse in a twist you know is coming but can never see. Then the repercussions ripple outward into the larger world, leading to bigger shit piles for the group to fall in later. And while his female companions are certainly flawed at their core, Kazuma is no angel. He's 16, 17, and while he finds Aqua to be as appealing as a particularly ugly stump, Megumin, Darkness, and really any other woman who gives him the time of day is certainly in danger of being harassed. Naturally, he gains a pretty harsh reputation in town despite his eventual accomplishments as leader of his party, which is in no part helped by the fact that the second anything juicy happens, Aqua runs out to tell the whole town about it, misinterpretation or not. However, it is important important to remember that Kazuma is a virgin hikikomori gamer NEET. Instead of going to school, he lived his whole life online, reading manga and playing video games. His views are thus as whack as you would expect someone immersed in that world with no outside contact to be. He believes himself to be a true feminist, often saying he'll dropkick any woman in the name of equality, which is like the most gamer bro statement one can make, I think. He's also horny on main 24/7, and after getting gifted a mansion thanks to Aqua accidentally causing it to be haunted and then exorcising the spirits she pushed into the house, Kazuma finally gets to go from covertly beating it next to her in the stable, which yes, he really does do that, to living in a lavish house with 3 beautiful ladies. He even manages to level up a bit eventually, allowing him to grab a couple skill points, spending the first ones on steel, which he learned from Darkness's only friend Chris. And of course, Kazuma's luck is so high, the only thing he can steal most of the time are panties. He may want a wallet or a weapon, but when you're 16, nothing trumps panties. This power he, of course, uses as a threat so often, he earns himself the title of Trash-Suma. And because of his general weakness and her and Darkness managed to be about 20 levels ahead of him at all times. However, he does make do with what he has. He ends up getting Drain Touch from Wiz, the town lich / general of the Demon Lord's army / big titty trope / not bad guy / terrible shopkeeper. And of course, you can't tell anyone where he got that skill, but mix its energy sapping powers in with steel, and you gotta kind of start wondering about Kazuma's intentions. Either way, it's okay, people are safe. He has an outlet, an underground succubus bar within the town of Axel, which allows you to have very relaxing dreams. Dreams that you can customize and order whenever you like that are guaranteed to relieve you of all your pent-up tension. And once Megumin and Darkness start maybe looking at Kazuma as a little bit more than a companion, it becomes his wussy virgin getaway. And before all that, his first attempt at purchasing such services goes horribly awry, leading to one of the more smoky, ecchi episodes in the series. But when it comes down to it, so far, Kazuma does not have the nuts to nut up and get his nut the natural way. Even when he hits his popular phase and Megumin's self-proclaimed rival Union comes busting through the door asking for his baby. No matter what, his jailbait and older woman fantasies end up in catastrophe, partly because Kazuma is a baby and partially because Megumin and Darkness are twisted as fuck. I also want to make a note here that there is an episode that is anime only about a magical collar, and it's arguably one of the funniest episodes of anime I've ever seen. But it also acts as an odd look into what the series is really about. And I think when this video is over, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because despite the jailbait, the horn dog, the useless goddess, and Trash-Suma being trash, they are truly what make this show so special. Each of their personalities is well defined, and the dynamic that creates never wavers. Watching true losers rise up from nothing to inevitably screw the pooch and fall back into debt and once again scramble around to fix their own mistakes is constantly hilarious. The dialogue between them is as comedic as it is rude.
屋敷で一緒に暮らし始めてからお前にはおっぱいしか求めていない。お前はおっぱいだ。ごめんな。
But it's undeniable that they are all very insecure people. Megumin's family is super poor. The reason she's so tiny is due to malnutrition, which she had to deal with her whole life, and the fact that she skipped gym class every day. But this led to her being super cutthroat. She will straight up kill a bunny or a ducky if it means XP or food. Her little sister is no better. Komoko's worse. The pair's cat / definitely not a cat, Shimosuke, was originally gonna be dinner. And despite Megumin being a genius, her need, her craving for explosion has turned her into a potential laughingstock in her hometown and kept her from getting a job. Before she met Kazuma and Aqua, she was as much a NEET as Kazuma himself. Darkness, aka Lady La Latina, is a high-bred noble woman from the most regal family around Axel. She has no idea about the real world, is 4 years past marriage age, and wants to be an adventurer to protect the world and to satiate her kink. Mostly satiate that kink. Mostly to get that kink. Before the party, she only had Chris as a friend who, well, I mean, let's just say she's more than she appears, but nobody would take Darkness on because, I mean, she's weird and useless. She also keeps that noble thing a little bit under wraps because she's embarrassed about it. And then of course there's Aqua, who is an idiot and therefore commands zero respect from any of her godly peers. And despite being higher up on the ladder than her junior heiress, she and her followers are mocked in the world of Konosuba, mostly because they're crazy and she's really stupid, like helpless baby levels. And that unfortunately will also never change because her stats were maxed fixed from day one. This is a realization Kazuma eventually comes to, which brings a mournful tear to the young man's eye. Also, no matter what she does, nobody thinks she's actually a goddess. Well, no one that matters anyway. She's constantly brought down, and of course, we got no friends, no life, no social skills. Kazuma, who takes out his own inability on everybody else. He's the first to throw words and the last to back it up unless he has mask on, but again, that comes later in the light novels. When it comes down to it, none of these guys had any friends or any hopes before meeting each other. They were all legitimate losers, and I mean they still are, but with their powers combined, they become Captain Dumb Luck. And yes, Megumin had a small group of peers previously, but she literally dropped them in an instant. The party is different. If you take the time to look closely, each member balances another one out. Megumin is frail, and Darkness is built as fuck, thick lady with a six-pack. Anyway, Darkness couldn't hit the moon with another planet, but Megumin can't not hit things, even if she tries. Sometimes she even hits Darkness. Aqua is dumb, but Kazuma is smart. So no matter how many times she gets the group in trouble, Kazuma finds a scheme to get them back out. He's also harsh and bitter, and though Megumin has an explosive temper, she's often the one to talk about the good parts of the team members. Darkness doesn't really defend so much as pull the occasional aggro, so when someone gets hurt, which can also happen for Megumin, let's be honest, Aqua is there to heal, and Darkness, well, Darkness has boobs and a better personality than Aqua. Okay, joking not joking aside, the party's reputation is usually pretty low, but Darkness being from the Dustinus family affords the crew some special privileges that their low-down poor trash status could never dream of achieving on their own. And no matter what happens, they always end up together in the end. And it's because they love each other. Despite Kazuma's logical tendency to almost ditch them at any given chance, or his ill attempts at internet meme feminism or feminism, the guy on the inside is just a sad virgin puppy. No matter how close he gets to losing that V card, he inevitably chickens out, and further into the story, he actually shows some loose but still there loyalty to a certain someone. A subtle nuance to these characters is the fact that they're natural-born dorks. A neat, a warped genius, an embarrassingly kinky ignorant noble, and a useless goddess. No friends, no skills worth having, but when they come together, it just works. Like a truck with octagonal wheels. Dysfunction doesn't equate to worthlessness. A magic bullet is useless without batteries. But put those two things together and you got something that's going to give you that daily explosion. In their own way, these four idiots actually complement and complete each other, which once in a blue moon lets them get a win. And it's always a big win. And for four people who have never had a win in their entire lives, that's enough to stick it out together, even for Kazuma. And while they're all a little touched in the head, deep down they recognize this fact and end up caring for each other immensely while also hating each other. It's a true family. And I'm a strong proponent that family isn't based on blood or lineage, but who you choose to spend your life with and give your time to. These four chose and continue to choose each other. It might be because they're insane, but it's also sentimentally cute. Despite the mishaps, the mistakes, the face palming and eye rolling that ensues, they always stick by each other when they could just leave. And if for some reason it seems like one of them has left, it really brings down the rest of the crew. And I think that's the very definition of a chosen family. If you continue to keep people in your life, their goods must outweigh their bads, at least by a little bit, right? And while all four of these guys have plenty of bad to go around, together, their individual goods shine through brilliantly, even if it's small. And the whole show, which is pretty dumb itself, only works specifically thanks to these perfectly crafted characters, which I don't think author Natsume Akatsuki gets enough credit for. Yes, they're funny, yes, they're goofy, but they're also very well built and consistent. And thanks to the surprisingly awesome animation and god-tier voice work, you can't help but fall in love with these trash people and forgive them their trash trespasses. And like, we're anime fans, okay? Let's not get pretentious and act like we aren't potatoes looking at unrealistically attractive cartoons most of the time, alright? I'm a bit of a hikikomori myself, so a show like this, it brings good happy vibes of a time when I too had friends. There are very few series out there that make me laugh out loud, and even though I've seen all there is currently on offer an embarrassing amount of times, I still laugh. Even the light novels make me audibly laugh, which then makes my girlfriend laugh at me because I'm pathetic. Very little, if any, of the show's charm or wit is lost in the pages of its source material, and I highly recommend picking the light novels up if you love the show. Anime, unfortunately, doesn't just happen. Unlike in America, where shows tend to stand on their own, anime is generally based off of something and is used almost as advertising to sell its source material. With the Konosuba light novels finished now at 17, the anime getting a third season is going to be predicated on merchandise sales and book sales. Because of Konosuba's popularity last year, it's looking like we may get a season 3, but also we might not. So, support a good author if you can, and let's get Kazuma his little sister complex going in season 3. And if you haven't watched Konosuba yet, and you need a trash break because life is truly f***ed, I can't think of a better place to get started. And with that, my friends, episode 1 of Trash Break is concluded. I'd like to send a special shout out to Super Saiyan God of the Week, Deku-kun, you the best, and our lucky patron of the week, Inferno256. Don't forget to check out our G Fuel link in the description. It really helps out the channel, especially if we can keep that contract. Watch all of our other videos 8 times. Find us on social media. Check out our live streams or something. Subscribe or don't, I don't care. And with that, I'm Mike. This is Bonsai Pop. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.